Hello everyone. Our father was a loving son to his mother Helen Welhaf Miller and his father George McClellan Welhaf, and he was an attentive son to both of them for their whole lives. Our dad was a little brother to his sister Doris and a big brother to Kenneth. Always there for each of them when he was needed, and he stayed close in touch with them when he was not. My mother might have had to remind him to call now and then, but he always called and he always cared. My wife Bunyat loved Dad dearly and felt as close to him as if he were her own father. She respected him so much. She wanted me to say how lucky she is to have had the special relationship with Dad that she had, and that she will always cherish the time that they spent together. Our dad was a friend to many people, respected by all who knew him and loved by many. Among all of Dad's wonderful nieces and nephews, Georgie Beisel and his dear wife Pat have always been very close to Mom and Dad. George never hesitates to tell me that he has known my father longer than any of us, and I believed he loved him just as much. My dad has had a few special friendships that have lasted a lifetime. Charles Beisel, my mother's brother, Uncle Lefty as we all lovingly called him, and Billy Camel, Alex Wilczynski, and Tom McCormick, to name those friends most special throughout his life. There were many more, Mike, his army buddy, and many others, some of whom might be here today. If you were his friend, you knew it, you felt it. His bowling buddies, those wonderful fellows at the bowling alley, who always took the time to come over and say hi and talk to him, made him feel so good, made me feel good too. I also saw how he gave those feelings right back to everyone who took the time to chat with him. Art Manzel and Mike Foreman always stopped by our lanes to chat with Dad and spend some time with him. He really enjoyed going to bowling. He looked forward to each week and was always disappointed when he couldn't be there. He loved the friendships and he loved the competition. Winning the bowling championship 2 seasons ago was a real highlight for Dad and all of us with him. I think all of his friends pulling for him and us helped us win. We thank you. Dad also looked forward to the golf trips sponsored by Fine Grinding and Tim Everett. He really enjoyed golfing and equally enjoyed spending time with all of us. We also enjoyed having him with us. Each of those trips was made more special because he was there with us. Ronnie Brittingham, an excellent golfer and dear family friend, always went the extra step to help ensure that Dad was comfortable and was enjoying himself. Ronnie even shared some of his golf wisdom with Dad on occasion. Ronnie was like one of Dad's sons. When Dad was 17, he enlisted in the service with his friends. He and his friends were separated after they enlisted, and Dad went into the Army infantry. After basic training and special infantry training in Spain, he was part of the invasion forces that entered southern France in the effort to drive out and defeat the occupying Germans. He and the Allied forces succeeded. He became one of the heroes of the Second World War. He was awarded the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart, among many other European theater ribbons. He told me that while they were in combat, he had the opportunity to do almost every job in his platoon. I asked him why. He said because he was one of the lucky ones who stayed alive, and when someone was wounded or killed, that job would become available. Among the jobs he held, he carried the M1 carbine rifle, the Browning automatic rifle, and was part of the 3-man 60mm mortar team. Because he was an expert marksman, the Army wanted him to become a sniper. As fate would have it, he ended up staying in the infantry. During a particularly nasty battle, he actually carried a wounded fellow soldier out of the forest through the snow and through enemy fire to seek medical help for his buddy. Because of Dad's heroic efforts, his friend survived. Also, upon returning home, he went to see the family of one of his buddies that was killed in the war to comfort and speak to them about his relationship with their son. Our dad was an excellent provider. He was an amazing plasterer. He could outwork the best in the business, and I was there to witness him doing just that more than once. He was always the foreman on the job, but he didn't direct everyone on what to do. He was the working leader. He would work hard and expect everyone to follow him and work hard too. And they did. He was well respected. I always joke that he was a really tough act to follow, but he wasn't acting. He was who he was. He was real. He was true to his values, true to his wife and his family, and true to his friends and to his employer. One time when I was little, it snowed quite a bit, and Dad had to climb out of the window of the house to get outside. He couldn't get to the car, and he couldn't get the car out of the driveway, so he took his tools and walked to the train station in Somerton. He rarely missed a day of work. Dad worked his whole lifetime for us. Dad's employer, C.H. Shoemaker, would sponsor Employees Weekend at our house at the shore each summer. My first summer attending that weekend was very special. I felt like I was one of Dad's men, one of the guys. Like guys do, there was card playing, beer drinking, and everybody relaxing and having a good time, and with more than a little swearing going on. There was Dad, being exactly the way he was at home, normal, not loud, not drinking too much, not cursing, but seemed to be having a good time. I thought maybe he was holding back because of me. I took him aside and told him that he didn't have to worry about me. He could be himself, raise a little heck if he wanted to. I was cool. He looked at me like I was crazy and said, "George, this is me. I am being myself." And he was. He was always a gentleman and a man with class. I will always be so proud to be his son. I worked with or for my father for over 20 years. We had a great working relationship. On one project, I had the privilege of working with my dad, just the two of us, at Ephrata Hospital for over 9 months. I was his laborer and even his partner when I could be. It was a special time for me, and I will never forget it. Working with my dad, just the two of us. Every day when I would ask Dad what he wanted for lunch, he would say, "Get me ham and cheese on rye with mustard and a Pepsi." After weeks and weeks of the same order each day, I said, "Dad, don't you ever eat anything else for lunch? Don't you ever want to eat anything else for lunch?" He told me to please just get him what he enjoys eating. And that's all I ever remember Dad having for lunch, ham and cheese on rye with mustard and a Pepsi. We drove to Ephrata and back every day. I drove the first day. After that, he drove the rest of the time. I had been burning the candle at both ends, playing music at night, working in construction during the day, and I fell asleep while driving him and I to work that first day. Dad looked over, yelled at me to wake up and pull over. He took over driving and told me he wasn't going to let me kill both of us. He was true to his word. He never let me drive again. Truth is, I think he always liked to drive rather than just sit there. And it gave me a little extra sleep time each day, and he knew that I could use it. Thanks, Dad. He was such an expert and so hardworking and fast that sometimes he would work too fast. Once in a while, we would catch up to the other trades on the project, and we'd have to make a little job last all day. Dad would tell me in the morning, "Let's pace ourselves and make this work last all day." Dad would begin working, getting into that amazingly productive rhythm that he was so good at, and we'd be done by lunchtime. Dad was respected and admired by all those who worked with him, including the job foremen and the superintendents. So we always got paid for the whole day, even when Dad would get us done early. But he never wanted to take advantage. He always wanted to give a day's work for a day's pay, and he knew that no one, not even him, could do a day's work in less than 8 hours. Of course, each day, Dad would give more than most. That's another reason why he was so successful, becoming the street superintendent for C.H. Shoemaker and overseeing the hiring and manpower of all the projects, ordering materials, and managing all the plastering for C.H. Shoemaker for many years. He was always fair to everyone, those who worked for him and those who he worked for. He did expect the most from his sons, though, and we all did our best to give him our best. Dad really loved music. He loved listening to the big bands, and Frank Sinatra was part of our family. We all grew up listening to Dad's music. Much of his music is now part of my favorites. But as much as he loved his music, he always had time to listen to the songs that I thought were good from my era. He really listened and was interested in my music too. Or at least he made me feel that way. When Rich and I had our band for those many years, Dad and Mom were our band's biggest supporters and fans. For years, Mom and Dad came out to see our band play wherever we were. There are so many things that can be said about our dad, like how he built us a home at the shore in North Wildwood on the weekends with the help of Billy Camel and Uncle Lefty. And of course, don't forget Mom's significant contribution, of course, holding down the fort at home every weekend, dealing with all of us kids while he was away every weekend. And please believe me, that was no easy task. He didn't just build a house at the shore. He built us a lifetime of wonderful family experiences and memories. Thank you, Dad and Mom, for your sacrifices and your dedication to us. Another of our mother's many gifts and sacrifices was a gift of a trip to France for her children, the 7 of us, and Dad, to travel from southern France up to the French-German border, tracing the path that Dad had taken, fighting in the U.S. Army infantry while chasing Hitler's Germans out of France and back into Germany. Of course, Dad marched and walked all the way, and we took vehicles, so we were a little luckier than Dad. It was a trip of a lifetime for us children, and Dad seemed to really enjoy sharing all of his memories of France and the war days with us. Dad loved France and enjoyed being there. Thank you, Mother, for unselfishly giving us that time with Dad. Our family has endured some terrible losses over the course of Dad's lifetime. Among those were the loss of his daughter-in-law, Steve's wife, Marge, his grandson, Robbie Hansen, and his great-grandson, Tony Welhaf. As we all were, Dad was devastated by the losses of those wonderful, dearly loved family members. No one ever gave Dad anything that he didn't earn fairly and by his own hard-working efforts. Dad forged his own successful future, and in the process, with our mother, as his loved partner and friend, and her many years of hard work and dedication, raised us children, giving us everything they had and everything they could. He and Mom would never tell you that, but I will. There is so much more to be said about Dad. I've only scratched the surface, describing my father and what he meant to me and everyone. Every day of his life, he loved his family, he loved his wife and his friends. He positively affected all who were close to him. At this time, he would expect us to forge on and be the best that we can be, just as he always tried to do. I love and miss you, Dad. You were a great dad and a great friend. Rest in peace in the arms of the Lord. Thank you, everyone.